Many years ago when I was in high school, I decided to binge watch all of the Rocky movies. They had been referenced so much in American pop culture. My dad really enjoys those movies, and so I finally watched all of them, or I watched most of them. Per my dad's recommendation, I only watched Rocky 1 through 4 because apparently 5 and 6 are really cash grabs. And the only reason why people don't consider Rocky 4 to be a cash grab, even though it kind of is because it's like really patriotic. So I watched Rockies 1 through 4, and ultimately I enjoyed the movies, but I remember not really loving the first Rocky movie as much as I was expecting to, even though that is what jump-started an entire franchise. That is the movie. Like, I thought it was good, but it didn't leave a strong impression on me, and I ultimately was kind of bored with it until I decided to rewatch it recently. I rewatched it the other day, and I realize now that my problem the first time around with it was that I went into Rocky expecting a boxing movie, when in reality that movie is a romance about a boxer. And that key difference makes me love Rocky so much more, and also might make this one of my new favorite romance movies. I really love that movie now. And it's really beautiful, and it truly, that movie barely has any boxing in it, and I think that's so funny, actually. The bulk of that movie is falling in love with Adrian first and foremost, but then also training for a boxing match, and I'm just really obsessed with it. I love that the opening 5 minutes are this really intense boxing match to set up Rocky as this local legend, as this really amazing fighter and athlete, and then immediately shifts into showing that he's only really successful in terms of being a local beloved athlete, not really a professional, and not someone who's able to make a living off of this passion. He has this kind of dingy apartment with a lot of junk all over the place, and it's really crowded, and there's like this broken rolled up mattress situation that he uses as like a punching bag with a knife sticking out of it. He has holes in some of his shirts. He's just barely getting by. And we know that that's not even just off of the money he's making off of winning these fights in these clubs, that he works for a local loan shark. He's the muscle. So when someone's behind on a loan, Rocky gets sent in to go rough them up and get the money, which I feel like should set Rocky up to be disliked by the audience, but ultimately isn't, because he does have this heart of gold. He walks around the neighborhood very well known. Everyone just says hi to him, and he's very sociable. Even when he's roughing up people, he talks about how he was given the instruction to break their pinky, and then he doesn't do it, but he does still get physical. So we know he has limits and that he ultimately cares about a lot of people. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After those first 5 minutes of introducing Rocky the fighter, we go straight into Rocky the lover boy. He goes home after his fight to this apartment and says hi to all of his animals. He has 2 turtles and a goldfish. And then he has this moment where he looks in the mirror with his turtle food and starts practicing a conversation about the turtle food, and then sort of gives up in frustration. And it doesn't really make sense why he does that until a few minutes later when he goes to his local pet store and he sees Adrian. And it's established when he walks in there that he's in there all the time. The owner of the place actually seems quite fed up with him being there all the time and is like over it. Rocky goes straight to have his conversation with Adrian and begins reciting what he was practicing in the mirror, which is a joke about the disproportionate elements of the turtle food and choking on moths. And there's so much intensity in how Rocky and Adrian stare at each other in the first half of this movie before they really get together. Rocky stares so longingly at Adrian, and I think it's really easy on first watch to interpret Adrian's personality and Adrian's responses to Rocky as being indifferent and also uncomfortable with him. She's incredibly quiet. She barely speaks a handful of words to him. She avoids eye contact. She doesn't talk to him. But then she does laugh at some of his jokes, and she regularly in this first half of the movie stares at him like she is about to say something, like she needs to say something, and then she just doesn't. She stares at Rocky often, so you know that there is something happening between the two of them. Adrian's boss sends her downstairs for a task, and the moment Adrian has to leave, Rocky doesn't have a reason to be in that shop anymore and leaves as well. Then shortly after this, we revisit Rocky's life solo. We see his life as the muscle for this loan shark, how his heart is getting in the way. We see him go to his usual boxing gym and see that his locker of 6 years has been taken from him, since the owner of the gym doesn't see him taking boxing seriously like he should, despite having all of this talent. And then later that day, he goes back to the pet shop late at night to go talk to Adrian. Everything always circles back to Adrian. When Rocky's not on the topic of what he does for work or boxing, the topic is always Adrian. So he goes back and circles around to Adrian, has another awkward conversation where she's pretty much unresponsive, but she tells him goodnight and she stares at him as he leaves the pet shop. Next, we see Rocky go to a local bar to find his best friend Polly, who is also Adrian's older brother, and the topic is still Adrian. He is asking why Adrian keeps giving him the cold shoulder, why she is totally not into his daily joke. He's frustrated because apparently every single morning he tells a joke and every single night he tells a joke. So he's going in there twice a day every day just to talk to Adrian, to tell her new jokes that he's coming up with in hopes that he'll get her to like him. Which is the other thing that I really enjoy about Rocky and Adrian's dynamic, is that they're both incredibly awkward people, but for polar opposite reasons. In this conversation with Polly, who is an asshole that I hate, starts going on this drunken rant about how much he cannot stand Adrian. He's so mean to his sister. He talks about how Adrian is pushing 30, she's a loser. But Polly and also everyone in this neighborhood looks down on Adrian. She's incredibly shy and very antisocial and very awkward to converse with. She's very timid and keeps to herself and struggles with social interaction. Rocky, on the other hand, is very odd and socially awkward in the opposite direction, in that he is incredibly sociable, but he is inarticulate. He bumbles and stutters through all of his conversations. The way he speaks, he just sort of sounds slightly confused about everything. He communicates in a way that's very simple. And so he loves to talk to people, but people don't take him seriously because they think he's kind of an idiot. And the way he talks is the same all the way through. The way he talks to his friends, the way he talks to Adrian, the way he speaks in professional formal interviews, it's all the exact same. He's really serious about Adrian, and he is struggling to get Polly to give him some reasonable advice. And so Polly just invites Rocky over for Thanksgiving, not to join them for dinner, but to take Adrian out on a date. And then we circle back to sort of like the main plot of the story, which is that world famous heavyweight champion Apollo Creed has the upcoming boxing bicentennial heavyweight boxing world champion match, which is happening on New Year's Day, making the timeline of the entire movie about 5 weeks. And shortly after being informed about the details of this fight, we cut to Apollo Creed finding out that his opponent was injured and is unable to fight. Then we cut to Rocky working for this loan shark, and the conversation quickly goes from instructions from his boss to talking about Adrian, talking about this girl he's gonna see tomorrow night, and Rocky defending Adrian's honor when the men in the car start making fun of her. Things with Creed are still developing, and it's the next night. Rocky's over at Polly and Adrian's house. He's there to take Adrian on a date. And Adrian is there making a Thanksgiving turkey. She's in the middle of cooking. And Polly, who's an asshole that I hate, gets into a very heated argument with her, telling her to go on this date with Rocky. And she's not interested. She's in a panic. He throws her turkey outside, and she's in a state of distress, and she locks herself in her room. And it's very uncomfortable and really sad and frustrating, and does not bode well for her and Rocky's situation. But then you start to realize just how much Adrian really is actually into Rocky, in that Rocky goes to talk to her through this locked door and she's not responding to him, and he only speaks to her for a couple minutes, but he's bumbling through asking her to go out with him right then and there, to just go get dinner or something. And because she's unresponsive, you're really not sure if she'll open the door. She does, and she's fully dressed, ready to go out, which means for at least half of what Rocky was saying, she was getting ready to go with him. And considering that he was only talking to her for about 2 or 3 minutes, it really did not take much convincing on Adrian's end to go on this date with Rocky. And you know she wouldn't have opened that door for Polly. Rocky checks in with Polly really quickly about things Adrian likes to do, and Polly tells them that she really loves ice skating. And so they go to an ice skating rink, and it's closed because it's Thanksgiving and it's after hours. But Rocky convinces the guy that's cleaning the ice to just give them 10 minutes on the ice. And this is the most talkative we've seen Adrian and Rocky be together in the movie. They're giving insight to their pasts. We're getting into why Rocky loves boxing so much. Rocky saves her from slipping on the ice. It's sweet, and they head back to Rocky's apartment after this. And this is the big turning point in their relationship, which honestly made me really nervous on first watch, or I guess first rewatch, though I probably was nervous about it on first watch as well, because Adrian is so shy and so difficult to read. She's visibly uncomfortable and very stiff in his apartment, while he's getting comfortable very quickly, taking off his shirt down to his undershirt. He has to convince her to come inside after she kind of says no a few times, and he comes off as just like really, really pushy, which like he is, but it's uncomfortable because Adrian reads as genuinely like really not being interested for a second. She panics a little and she says she really needs to go home. She needs to call her brother. Polly might not know where she is. She's trying to get out of that apartment, and Rocky keeps sort of like pushing and pushing, getting closer and closer, closing the distance between the two. And you start to worry as the viewer if Rocky is pushing things a little too far with Adrian, that maybe she does like him, but not enough to move this quickly at all with him. She's in this man's apartment for the first time, and she also establishes that she's never been inside of a man's apartment. Adrian is very inexperienced with men, and Rocky is very, very direct with his feelings. At one point, they close the gap, or really Rocky closes the gap, and this part made me really nervous until we finally get the reveal of why exactly Adrian is so panicked and uncomfortable. And it's not necessarily because of Rocky or the situation, but it's because she doesn't think Rocky is serious in his pursuit of her, because she's totally new to any of this. She's not used to having a man be so into her and so earnestly. And then the two fall into each other's arms. They melt into each other in the most passionate kiss and drop to the floor. And what's so great about this kiss, besides the kiss itself, is that this is a major turning point, not just for Rocky and Adrian's relationship, but also for Adrian in particular. From this point on, there is a major shift and major development for Adrian. Rocky doesn't change much throughout this film. He builds up his confidence in taking himself seriously, not just as a man, not just as a boxer, but also as a worthy opponent for Apollo Creed, who has requested that Rocky be the replacement opponent for a really great fight and earn himself, win or lose, $150,000. Rocky, as confident and comfortable and outgoing as he is incredibly insecure about his abilities as a boxer and is terrified of being just another bum from the neighborhood. But Adrian, from that kiss and beyond, completely comes out of her shell. She grows in immense confidence. She wears more vibrant colors. She begins to stand up for herself to Polly. She also moves in as Rocky's new roommate. And I remember, like, this genuinely threw me off because I had to remind myself that this is only about 5 weeks. Like, truly, they got together on Thanksgiving. The movie ends on New Year's Day. So in less than a couple weeks, they move in together. But it's okay because we know they're soulmates. I really enjoy Rocky and Adrian together, especially because even after they get together, the conversations surrounding their relationship still are a hot topic. Rocky's new coach, which is the owner of that gym who yelled at him for not being serious, tells him to stay away from Adrian, that now is not the time to have a girlfriend because women will make your legs weak. And Rocky hears this advice from his new coach and is like, okay, and then just like never brings that up to Adrian. He does not break things off with Adrian. In fact, shortly after, I think the next scene with Adrian that we see after Rocky is told that having this girlfriend would be bad for his legs, the next scene that we see with Adrian is Adrian giving Rocky a dog to go running with him in the mornings, which I thought was a really sweet way to show that Adrian actually is a woman who will make Rocky's legs strong, that she will continue to help build him up outside of formal boxing training. She doesn't fully understand his love of boxing. She doesn't understand why anyone would fall in love with violence, but she loves Rocky and she will still support him. And she finds her voice more and more frequently and her style changes more and more. And I think what really solidifies Rocky as truly a romance movie is that the movie doesn't end when Rocky reaches his goal with Apollo Creed in the ring. Rocky's goal isn't even to win against Apollo Creed, it's to go the distance. It's to make it to all 15 rounds. And you'd think that once he's achieved that in the end, that's the happy ending for the movie, but no. In all of the commotion of this fight being over and Rocky having achieved his goal, he went the distance with Apollo Creed. He was a worthy opponent with the heavyweight champion. He's not a loser. He's not a bum. He just won $150,000. That is not what is on his mind at the end of it. He doesn't care. Despite all of the commotion, all of the crowds of people, despite all of the cameras and all of the microphones being shoved in his face, all he can do is look for Adrian. And he's screaming, Adrian! Adrian! He can barely see. His face is so insanely swollen. His priority is not that he just achieved this major boxing goal. His priority is Adrian. And the movie doesn't end with the end of this boxing match. This movie ends when Adrian gets to him and tells him she loves him. That's when we know the movie's over. That's when we know we have completed the story. Not with this boxing match, with Adrian loving Rocky back. And it is simply everything to me. I feel all of the feelings about it. I absolutely adore the very subtle, simple, and fully accessible, relatable ways that this couple grows together. How they play off of each other, how they influence each other, how interesting they are just like as a dynamic, but both at their core overlapping in how sweet they are. They're genuinely two very sweet people. I did not appreciate this movie as much as I should have when I was like, 16? And it's all I can think about. This love story is all I can think about. There are whole romance novels that are not touching the love story in Rocky. And I just needed to talk about it. And also rewatch Rocky again.